This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. Delighted to be joined by trainer extraordinaire, Dave Coldwell.
How are you, mate? You all right?
How are you? You all right?
Do you know what? It's been a week of rain and sun's out, so back out in the sun today. So yeah, happy days.
Weather's a little bit hit and miss. It's like 1 minute you walk out, the sun is beaming, and then next minute, looking a little bit grey. But
yeah, it's better than what it has been, mate. It's been bouncing down for a week, but we had a good run of sun, didn't we, for a good couple of weeks, 3 weeks. So can't complain too much.
I know, but we should be in the peak of it now. We're in July. We should be in the peak of it anyway.
True. Forget about that. Forget where the months are and stuff like that now.
Exactly. Wanted to kind of just start off by talking to you about how you're getting on with Laron Richards.
Very well, you know. He's very, very easygoing, laid back. It reminds me a lot of Jordan Gill, personality-wise, in how there's no drama, there's nothing, you know, there's no stress or anything like that. It's just an easy fit. He understands. He's very intelligent. He gets what I'm wanting to do with him, and he's slot right in, fitting with the lads. It's really good setup at the moment now, and there's a good vibe in the gym.
I spoke to Billy Joe Saunders years and years ago when Laron was training over at the old MGM, back then it was called,
right,
MGM gym in Marbella, and he was sparring Billy Joe, and Billy Joe was talking so highly of him then. That was probably about 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah,
and said that, you know, this kid's a special talent, and I think we've seen snippets of it, but we've not seen kind of like the complete package. I mean, he's still I'm not sure how old he is, but he's still got his
13 fights in, isn't he? That's all. It's 13 fights. He's still a novice, still a baby, and he's British and Commonwealth champion. But I agree with you with what I've seen of him, what I watched of his fights and things. He struck me as a fighter that was content just to do enough, just to win, just to keep his nose in front. He'd hurt people and kind of like just step back and just, you know, not turn the screw anymore. But you know, there's going to be little changes like that in attitude, in mentality. It's not going to turn into a Mike Tyson or anything, but it gets you've got to step up through the gears, and that's what you know, when he starts putting gears into his performances, then you're going to see the talent that he's got, because he's very, very talented, very, very. I class him in that bracket where it truly is, you know, the ceiling's what he puts on himself, you know.
I did a joint interview between him and Umar Sadiq recently, and because we don't know when it's going to happen, but we know at some point that fight will happen this year. And I quite like that fight. But Umar Sadiq was kind of taunting Laron about his style. And I suppose it's a fair point. He may not be the most, entertaining fighter to watch, but he's very effective, and he's going to be very awkward for fighters to kind of work his style out and beat him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the first time I watched him spar, forget about the fights. I watched him on YouTube, watching his fights and things like that. And yeah, I get that. The first time I watched him spar, he struck me as the fighter where he can be that man that you watch and you think, there's so much more there. Go through the gears, do some more.
Yeah.
And it can be frustrating, but then he's also that guy that when he does go to work and he does have those little spikes where he expresses himself, you just go, wow, he's good. He's really good. And so this is what I'm saying is mentally, and what I want to put into him is gears and going up and down through the levels, and he understands that, he gets that. So again, not going to turn him into a Mike Tyson, but he's going to be more of a complete fighter in terms of knowing when to go, when to pull back, when to go, when to start turning the screw, when to put the foot down to the pedal, little things like that. He gets that 100%. He understands the frustrations that some people have towards his performances, and understands what is needed to take him from being that champion And yes, you're winning the fights, but then going to the next level where people actually want to tune in, actually want to watch you, actually want to speak about you, and then therefore you're involved in the bigger fights and the bigger, the bigger paydays,
I mean, it's an old cliche. I mean, the likes of Mayweather and Ward, you're talking about two of the best fighters of the last sort of 20 years, always got criticised for their styles, etc. But, I mean, what do you want to do? Do you want to win or do you want to please the crowd? It's about winning at the end of the day. And I think people who appreciate the sweet science of the sport will end up appreciating someone like Laron Richards.
Yeah, 100%, and that's something that you can't take away from him. That his abilities and what he's capable of doing. The only thing that I understand the frustrations are, and he does as well, and we spoke about that, is that he will be in fights where it is quite evident that he's a level above the opponent, but he will just do just enough, and that's where, when you're talking about not be disrespectful, but there was a stage when Roy Jones would fight guys or have guys put in front of him that shouldn't be in the ring with him, and he would go out there and just completely outclass them, get rid of them, or just look sensational in beating them. James Toney would do the same thing. We would fight guys that were at that same sort of level that shouldn't be in with him, and he would drop down to their level.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to explain to Laron, and he gets it, that I would rather him be on that. I'm not saying stylistically he's a Roy Jones.
Yeah.
I'm saying the mentality of if you get in there and the guy's not on your level, when you get those spots where you can put more output into the fight and be a little bit more entertaining, be a little bit more adventurous, express yourself a little bit more, don't hold back. Let your talent show, and it's about letting the world see the talent that this kid possesses, because he is very, very talented.
Yeah,
very, very talented.
That's something that's we've seen in those 13 fights. Like I said, maybe like snippets, and obviously you're going to see more as you're involved in on that side. But the talent is unquestionably there.
Yeah. When like I said, day one of sparring, when you're doing work with him and things like that. Obviously, you see it, but then the first sparring session is always quite interesting because it's the first time you've seen your man react to certain situations. Getting punched back. I asked him to do certain things. He did. He just did it exactly how I asked him to. Put himself in uncomfortable situations. His mentality is right. And then you see what he's doing, and you just think, wow, he is really good. Jordan wasn't there, but I showed Jordan the sparring, and Jordan said the same thing. He was like, he's really, really good. You can see the potential that he's got in him, even when he's just being comfortable, and that's where it can be infuriating in a performance where he's comfortable, he's got it all his own way, but he's not taking himself that little bit more, he's not pushing himself that little bit more, and that's something that I believe that we will start seeing change.
We'll come on to Jordan in a bit, but I wanted to talk to you about Tony Bellew, who I recently interviewed at the Matchroom Fight Camp about 2.5-3 weeks ago. I mean, I've interviewed Tony a couple of times during lockdown, but I haven't kind of been in front of him to interview him. And there was a lot of comments about he made regarding whether he'd come back, etc., etc.
I haven't seen this.
Okay, so there's a video actually. After we get off the phone, I'll actually send it to you. So I asked him about it, and I was kind of expecting Tony to shut it down straight away, and I honestly got the gauge from it that he wasn't saying he was coming back, but he wasn't saying that he wouldn't either. And I think I got Eddie Hearn involved in it as well. And Eddie Hearn was like, I'm not letting you fight again. There's no way I'm like letting you fight again, etc. And Eddie kind of bantered him and said, unless there was a ridiculous amount of money, that's just a Hearn comment to make. We know that. But just talking to him though, I don't know. I just kind of come away from it. I know you haven't seen what I'm talking about, but you know him as well as anyone, Dave.
Yeah.
What would you kind of comment on this? And I'm assuming you're in that part that no, he's not coming back.
No, he's not coming back. he will always want to fight because he's a fighter. He's a natural. Some fighters fight because they have to, or some fighters fought because they had to. Some fighters fought or fight because financially they need it. He fights or he fought because he loved to fight. He didn't necessarily love the training side of things, did the job, did everything that he has to do. But I wouldn't say he loved training. Did he love sparring? Yes. Did he love the fight nights? Yeah. Once that bell goes, that's his thing. That, you know, he's got that in him. He's a natural fighter. So I don't believe that when you've been doing something like that for 20 plus years, basically all your life, you know, all your adult life, I don't believe that ever leaves you. You will always look for that fight. You will always, you know, you always look for something to replace that. And it's very hard to find something in normal life that gives you those same feelings that that a fighter has when he's walking to the ring, when the adrenaline is pumping, when he's in there and he's in, you know, one-on-one combat. There's nobody else to rely on. It's just you yourself that has to perform to win, or if they don't, then they lose. It's all on you. In football, in cricket, in whatever other sport like that, when it's obviously UFC is different, but in combat sport, when it's 1-on-1, it's all on you. You can do all the training you want. Training camp can go perfect, everything. You go in that ring and you have to put it together. You know, your coach can help you, can advise you, but it's down to the fighter. And this is why the fighter is the most important thing in the sport, because it's down to the fighter. And when you have that love for that feeling and for that adrenaline rush and for the fact that you love to fight, when that's taken away, what else is there to replace that? And this is why a lot of fighters struggle with retirement. It's finding that next buzz, finding that next, you know, adrenaline rush, and it's finding something that gives you the same sort of feeling. Now, for Tony, you know what? Yes, it's a worry. You know, I worry for him because he has that. But I would also say that I've spoken to a lot of fighters who've been retired for 20, 30 years, and they still shape up in front of the mirror. They still would love that, you know, that one more fight, you know. But ultimately, Tony's very, very intelligent. He's a smart man. You know, he's a smart fighter, but he's a smart man. And although he has the desire that he wants to fight, the bottom line is that he knows somewhere deep down in that pit of his stomach, he knows that he can't. He knows that the last 4 camps that we had, he had injuries with his body started breaking down. You know, rib injuries, front of the rib, rear of the rib. You know, hands were in bits. You know, he had injuries every fight. For his last 4 big fights going into camp, he had injuries. And he knows that that's wear and tear of the body coming, you know, age coming. Now he's, you know, he's been retired for so long. It's only getting worse. The only difference is that while you're not in the gym day in, day out, getting battered you can't remember what it feels like. You can't remember how hard camp was. You can remember, but you actually, the actual feeling of it fades, you know. And then you see when fighters that have been retired for a long time, some come back and go ahead with the fights and carry on more than one fight. Others might just have that camp and think, oh, hang on a minute, it's a lot harder than what I thought this. You know, when you wake up the next morning, the aches and pains, rather than after you've warmed up and you're stretched off, they've gone. While you're actually punching, you're still feeling them. You're still feeling the injuries, yeah? And your body's going to break down even more. Tony, he understands that. He knows that deep down. And while his mind and his heart want to fight, there's a part of his brain that actually understands that what sometimes we want, we can't always have. And he's got to kind of like look at how fantastic his career's been, what he's achieved. And the way that I would say is if he was to come back, can you outdo what you did before? No, because you're not going to go back to cruiserweight. Can you win a world heavyweight title with the guys that are out there now? Are you big enough? Are you fit enough? Are you young enough? Are you fresh enough? It's not realistic. You know, it's not realistic. And so if you can't scale the heights that you did when you had your success.
Yeah.
What is the point to come back? Because you're only, and this is to every fight. It's not just about Bellew. This is to every fight that I look at. I think, can you equal or better what you did when you was in your prime, you was younger and you was training all the time and you was active? Can you, as an older man, match that or beat that? If the answer is probably not, don't think so, highly unlikely, no, then you're rolling a dice to tarnish your reputation. You're rolling a dice to have more heartache, because you go through all that. You got to say, you go through a camp and everything. You go through all that. You come back, and it ends in disappointment. What is that going to do to your mental state? Because you walked away from the sport when you're at the top. Listen, he got beat by Usyk, but it was at the absolute pinnacle of his career, of any career, fighting for the undisputed championship of the world against a pound for pound fighter, you know, I think will go down as a great fighter. So he's gone out at the absolute top. You come back and you struggle and you lose, you look bad because of age, because of time, because of circumstances of where you are in life. You know, you're going to leave then not having that memory of the high and what you've achieved. You're going to leave then of where you are now. I look at kids that are in boxing now and have just come into boxing a few years ago. You talk to them about Roy Jones, straight away they'll start looking at Roy Jones. They see Roy Jones as the old Roy Jones. You see the Roy Jones that was getting beat and carrying on and getting beat, and it's like, really? You have to remind people how great that man was and what he used to do at his top. You know, same as like people like Evander Holyfield and Tyson, when they keep on going on for too long. The next generation kind of only see what's in front of them and see that. You don't want that as your legacy and your reputation, you know, especially when you've achieved everything that Tony's had. You know, so all that aside, his wife's not going to let him box. His kids are old enough now to say, "Dad, I don't want you to box." Eddie's not going to let him box. I should hope, and I think Eddie's just tongue in cheek when he's saying, "Oh, unless it says." I don't think Eddie would, because Eddie's actually friends with him and very good friends with him. So I don't think Eddie would. And my advice to him would always be, you're not going to box. Not going to box. Listen, he's not going to box with me. You know, that's how.
I was going to ask you, Dave, like, hypothetically, and let's just assume him to be deadly serious about it. If he phoned you and said that he does want to give it one more go and he wants you to train him, would you just point blank refuse it?
Yeah, because
or would the circumstances about reasoning why, who it was against, would that have any impact on your thought process?
No, because the problem is, it's financially set, right? His family's set, his kids are set, everything's been put. He's smart man. He's looked after his money. Everything is laid there for his future, right? So the only difference is that he has to build a future, not as a fighter, right? So we have to adjust as mindsets and as egos, even, because we all have egos, and fighters have got a great ego, which is a big driving force. Once it closes, once the sport ends on him. But he's fantastic with television, whether it's boxing, punditry, commentary, or when you see him on all these TV shows. He's got a fantastic gig there. He manages fighters. He's got great experience to talk to fighters. Now, I know he's not got the patience to be a coach, but it would be a good. He's a great advisor. So there's so many things that he can do. He's not desperate for money. It's different when a fighter comes to him and says, "Look, I'm broke. I don't have no money. I'm going to lose my house or this." And you think, it's with a heavy heart or whatever. But you think, okay, let's see what I can do. But you've always got that mind, well, I can always throw the towel in. I can always call time on it. If camp's going that bad, I can pull the plug. But that's in extreme circumstances where it's going to make a difference to his life. For a fighter who's been at the top, been away for a long time, not retired early, but retired at 35. You know, you're not talking about a man that retired at 30 and says, "Oh, I want to come back while my body's still fresh and I'm still not, I'm not old." You know, when you've retired at 35, you've put on a lot of weight. You've not really lived a life as an athlete, to then come back, it's going to be even harder than what it was for your last couple of fights going into camp. And so there's no genuine reason for him to come back other than to satisfy ego, that drive in him that still persists there, and missing the fights. But you have to replace that. You know, we all as we get on in, you know, football's the same. You know, you have to find something that's gonna replace that, substitute that. It may never quench thirst. And like I said, you bump into old fighters in the 60s and stuff like that, and they still, you know, they've still got it, still lit a bag, still. But there's a big difference between going on a bag, doing some pad work, and getting in there and getting punched off some young guy that's at the peak of his game.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I speak to so many people, like when I'm out, about Mike Tyson, and, you know, they say to me, "Oh, I tell you what, I see him on the pads, I see him on the bag.
Yeah.
I think he could come back." And so many people have said, like, he'd beat like Joshua Wilder and all these people. And I'm thinking to myself, you watching a heavyweight great like Mike Tyson at 54, 55 years old on the bag, he's always going to look good on the bag or the pads. Like, he could be 80 and he could probably still throw good shots on the bag and pads. Getting 100%. Into the ring, especially to compete with modern day heavyweights, completely different kettle of fish.
Completely different. And this is the thing, we cannot listen. I feel physically, genuinely, I feel better than I ever have done in my life. I genuinely, I'm fitter. Doing stuff, my training wise, I'm fitter now than when I was fighting. You know, I'm genuinely in great shape. Does that mean that I can get in and because my knowledge is better as a fighter now, I actually shape up when I do bits of sparring better than what I did when I was fighting? So then do I think, oh well, come back, even my record out a little bit?
Yeah.
No, because it's a bit different. As soon as you start getting punched, it's a bit different. You know, it's just a little bit. We cannot. Pads, remember, is rehearsed. Rehearse that drill. The more you do it, the better you're going to be. Smoother, faster, quicker, look sharper. Then you can start banging harder with every single combination. Bam, 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 bam. Constantly drilled. The pads. You're drilling it. Sparring, fighting against a man that's trying to punch your face in, it's completely different. Completely different.
I haven't really found anything to replace my fighting days, to be honest, Dave. You know, I'm still like...
You're not a bad interviewer, mate.
Yeah, I've not really found the passion to replace.
But it's like, people are different. So some fighters fight more with that than that, and the ones that fight more with that, a little bit more calculated, a little bit more, a little bit colder towards the sport. Where yes, when they realise that time's up, yes, they miss it, they miss everything, but they can take their mind and go into something else and then focus their mind on that. And they're quite happy, you know? But then, like I said, for people like Tony, who is that, he puts his heart into everything. He's put his heart into this sport for so long that it's very hard to not walk away, but to be settled walking away. And what you have to do is you have to just fill your day up with other things that are going to keep you occupied, keep you sane, and keep you happy. You may never get over that missing of fighting, but you have to. Simple as that. You have to, because what you're going to do, even if you come back now at this age, you've still got that same drive, that same mentality. It all goes wrong, you retire, or even if you come back and you win, you retire. You wait a couple more years, then what? You think you're going to do it again? You can't keep doing it. There's got to be a cut-off point at some point in a fighter's career. Even the ones that keep coming back because they've got that thirst, that you know. But you look at I look at Roy Jones, I look at James Toney, I listen to James Toney speak, and I just think it's just so sad that these people keep on going and going and going when there's so many times where you say, right, that's it, mate, that's it. But they carry on going too long.
When people also reference guys like Hopkins and Foreman and guys like that, you know, and I'll talk to people about it, I go, George Foreman spent like 9-10 years out of the ring, come back, beat Mora, brilliant. But that is a unique situation, what happened. Like, I appreciate that. And also with Hopkins winning a world title at 50, whatever, again, a unique situation. Like, these situations are not like to the dozen even. You're talking about Foreman, one of the greatest heavyweights ever. Hopkins, one of the best fighters ever. But these are like elite athletes that are in unique situations. It's not a common thing for fighters of a certain age to kind of reach their
it's not common. It's very unique, and it is very, it's once in a blue moon. It's I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, if that's like saying, well, if you're you see around you, there's people around you that are successful at whatever. Does that mean that just because they're doing it, I can just walk into it at whatever age, not do anything, and because they're doing it, I can do it? Bernard Hopkins is that level. Foreman was that level where it's just unique, and it's not just that they're unique. Circumstances, the right fights, the right time,
Exactly.
The right opponents to make them to help them with what they can do and can't do. Everybody adapts as you get older. Fighters, Bernard Hopkins adapted his style as he got older. Foreman adapted his style as he was older. And if you get the right opponent in front of you that will not help you consciously, but their style will help you to just manage the situations. And if you've got that brain, then you can get away with it. But you're talking about like once in a blue moon, and these are elite. There's a reason why these are legendary fighters, and because they're unique,
So just finally on this, can you categorically say that we will never see Tony Bellew in a professional boxing ring again?
Yeah, I mean, Tony will always say never, but that's just the fighter in him. Right. So, I'll listen. He's a family man, and ultimately, it'd be too much for his family. His family won't allow it. Nowhere. And also, as we get older, we're trying to preserve ourselves to be around for his kids longer, and you've got a responsibility for your family, and that's I don't think he would. I don't think it although he would like to, I don't think he'd ultimately put his family through it.
Just that, I don't know if it's me and you getting older or just us all getting older, but that kind of now retired old guard that we used to have so many, not just Bellew, but like the Frotches, the Gals, Groves, David Hay, all those guys that have retired over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. It's like that wave of fighters that we were so kind of had so many great nights with, not fighting anymore. So even
it's hard. It is. It's difficult. As a and you're always going to get. This is the worst thing is, especially with these days with social media, it's harder for retired sportsmen, fighters, whatever. It's harder for them because you can't just. Back in the day when a fighter retires, it's only his local village that probably says, "Oh, all right, champ, right," and it makes them feel, reminds them about the good old days. All you have to do is to go, for somebody like a Bellew or a Frotch or a David A. All they've got to do is open up their social media account, and there's always somebody on there reminiscing about how great they were. That's triggering your memories off about how great you were and what you could do. And there's always somebody on there saying, "Oh, just one more fight, mate. Oh, I'd love to see you back in ring." Oh, so they have it harder because of social media, because there's always people that's reminding or asking them the question, "Are you going to come back? Are you going to come back?" That's what makes it harder for them. That's because it reminds them when somebody asks you about, "Oh, I was there, Goodison Park." Oh, you straight away take your mind back to that. I do as a coach. Whenever I see a little clip, a Bellew chinning Makabu, mate, my emotions come back of that night. Not now. I'm sat here watching it. I feel happy. I take my mind back to that night when I watched him knock Makabu out and where shit just went ballistic. My mind goes back to that. So me as a coach, can you imagine what a fighter does when he wins his highlighter his night? His mind goes straight back. So it feels like yesterday. So you remember that feeling physically as well as mentally of that night and how great you felt. And you think, I can do that again. It's difficult.
I did want you to talk about Jordan. We'll obviously be featuring on Match and Fight Camp.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're glad to get Jordan back in the ring again.
Mate, I just want to get there. We was supposed to have fought March 28th, and we got to 10 days, I think it was, and then obviously lockdown happened, and it was devastating for him. It'll be almost a year by the time he gets in the ring. It's been a difficult ride for him, difficult time for him. But do you know what? I was saying this to him and his dad the other week. Sometimes fighters need the horrible parts of the sport. They need the loss. They need the mental anguish. They need the soul searching for him to become more of a complete fighter mentally. And with Jordan, it's always been a case of like it's almost like he feels the pressure of the world on his shoulders. And he's the kind of guy that because he's a perfectionist, he could do 2 minutes 50 seconds of brilliance and 10 seconds where he makes a couple of mistakes or gets tagged a couple of times. He'll come back to the corner, and you already know that he's thinking about those mistakes too much, or overthinking, overanalyzing, rather than acknowledging, okay, I know what I did wrong there, but thinking about all the good shit he was doing. And you can't build your confidence up and believe in yourself to the max if you're always beating yourself up. And sometimes, he got beat. It was very difficult for him mentally because of what happened to come through that, but eventually did. Then he got ill. And then when he's faced with the fact that he might not box again, I think, again, that's just absorbed into his mind to kind of like not to forget to enjoy what he does, and not to forget to enjoy the moment and the present of where we're at now, because we're reaching all the time in everything, whatever. We're always looking for the next thing. Want to smash this, want to do that, want to get there, but you're forgetting to enjoy where you are right now as the process is unfolding. And I just think with everything that's gone off and then lockdown, I think these last few months I've seen a completely different Jordan Gill. He's just yes, he acknowledges if he makes mistakes, not a problem, blah blah, but he doesn't dwell on it, overthink it, and he's not walking around like he's got pressure on him. He's enjoying himself. He's enjoying what he's doing, and he's understanding how great. Because I've always said, potentially, his talent is unbelievable. He's a really, really good fighter. He's like shit up. I've took him to America. I've took him everywhere. Chicago, Vegas, Chicago, LA. I know he's been to Vegas sparring with good fighters. I've seen him spar with some really good fighters, and he's a good fighter. But it's just unlocking and allowing himself to express himself fully. Now I'm seeing that day in, day out in the gym. I'm seeing where he's at. Working with Scott Robinson, nutritionist. He's in unbelievable shape. There's no issues about anything with his weight. There's no issues about anything. And his health, thank God, is fine. And it's like he's got a second life, a second chapter to his life, and a new lease of life. Also, he's been, in the period since he's down, he's been married. And when you get married, when you're settled and you just get married and things like that, again, it gives you another level of maturity. And he's only just 20. He's 20. He was 26 the other week, so he's still a young fighter. He's still a young man, and part of your development as a man as well has an impact on your boxing. And we've only been working together 2 years, but there's been a lot happen in those 2 years, and he's come out the other side. And I said to him, don't forget, you have already been Commonwealth champion, international champion. You've already achieved a lot. So don't think you've gone all the way back down to the bottom of I'm trying to get through, I'm trying to break through and all that lot. Which is why we wanted a real fight. His talent is immense. And now I feel as though I've got the maturity mentally from him. Now I'm really excited about Jordan Gill. I'm really excited about August 1st, what we're going to see on August 1st. August 1st is unique for both fighters, for every fighter. I watched the show last on Friday night with BT, no crowd and everything like that. It's a weird old setup. It's a weird old setup, and so fighters have got to deal with that as well. And you don't know how fighters, because that's unique. You don't know how fighters are going to deal with that. But they've got to, and that's a level playing field. But I'm excited for August 1st. I really am excited to see what he does on August 1st on Eddie's show.
Yeah, like I said, it was good to see obviously BT Sport, Frank Warren, Queensbury bring boxing back.
Yeah.
Finally, Hearn's got his one at the start of August, so
It's good to be back.
small steps, yeah.